Good evening. It is Heather with Dump Truck Diaries, and it is, I think it's Wednesday. Oh, it's fucking Thursday. All right, so it's Thursday. I think 20 after 12. I just got home from work. I didn't just get home at midnight. I got home from work at 11 or 11:30 tonight, and then I had to spend a half an hour to 40 minutes playing bouncer in the fucking chicken coop because they were beating each other up. And then half an hour to water the plants in the dark, standing on the garage roof. I found a new way to water the plant. I found a successful way to water the plants. I had to hook, since the spring is dried up, I hooked up a hose to the bladder tank from the well in the basement because it has a faucet on it. At least until I get that replaced, because the bladder tank just it's gone. My first quote was $1,500, and I had a new plumber come yesterday or the day before. He's going to put it in next week for $1,100. So I'm making myself dinner. We're going to have an intimate evening with Heather with Dump Truck Diaries. And Anne, I got a request from Anne asking if I would ever do, I think it was like a couple of announcements, like a live, I don't know if it's like where people can interact and stuff. Absolutely. I want to fucking talk to you people. And I know that you guys aren't going to call in, but I think if I do a live clip, then it's just a matter of like waiting for comments and questions to stream in, and then I answer them. So I will give you some notice, maybe like next week, if I have time. Maybe next week I can do something like that, but I'll give you a few days notice. And I want to also let you know that there's this new community thing, and I did activate it and opt in. So I went into settings, and so my community is active. And I guess what that means is that now you guys can actually go on and post your own things and interact with each other and me and stuff. I was working on putting up a post to let you know, and I don't think that it happened. So one of the things I tell you that, because I want you to have fun with it, but also if I'm gonna do a live video, I want to give you guys notice. Maybe if you want to tell me when, like what days or evenings, I don't know what time zones you guys are in. I don't want to like log on when it's convenient for me, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning and nobody logs on. So I want to try and do my podcast tonight outside on the deck. I'm in the process of making myself dinner at 12:30 at night. I got the grill heated up. I just cleaned it. I'm having salmon, rainbow carrots, honey glazed with cinnamon and nutmeg, rainbow carrots, and fresh ear of corn. So I'm going to throw that on the grill, and we're going to chit chat. And tonight's topic is going to be work to live and live to work. Okay, I had to get situated because if I'm going to eat this really healthy salmon and carrots and corn from the grill, I have to at least be able to wash it down with this delicious and beautiful homemade black raspberry heavenly hash chocolate milkshake. That doesn't suck. So this is gonna be a little mixture of like dump truck dining with Heather. Heather's kitchen, Heather's outdoor kitchen. I don't know. So I came up with the topic, and I wanted to do the podcast because I had like an epiphany of sorts today. And I would say not necessarily a good epiphany, but really it's all a matter of what you take away from it. So it can be good. The whole work to live and live to work, it's a matter of balance. And I'm losing that balance. And I need to get that balance back. And I realize that it's up to me. And I can't wait for things to just get better, or when this is done. Speaking of done, I'll give you some cooking tidbits. This is how I cook my my corn and my carrots on the grill. I get the corn, I soak the corn for a little while, get it nice and wet, moist. The carrots are in there. It's heavy duty tin foil. I used to use oven bags, but I just make my own pouches now. Little drizzle of Wegmans basting oil. You could just use a little bit of butter. I put like a teaspoon of honey sprinkle of cinnamon. Hold on, I'm being stalked. Look. What are you doing? Stitch? He's so fucking silly. Tiny pinch of nutmeg. And a couple tabs of butter. Put it in the pouch, put it on low, shake it around while it's cooking, flip it over. It'll steam and the bag will expand. It's really delicious. You want to shake it around so you get the honey and the butter all over the place. These, I turn them until each side is like blackened, almost blackened. And I'll put the salmon on last. And they steam inside the husks. And when they catch on fire, you blow them out and they're done. So what I want to do, I'll give you a little background. I'm probably going to jump around. I always jump around. You guys know how much shit's been going on. I mean, you've seen the stuff going on. There has been so much more that I haven't even revealed because it's not necessary. And you guys have been really cool. The thing is, I've mentioned, I've been cranky. And there needs to be a perspective. And I think it's perspective. I was listening to a podcast today that had Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful. He was talking about the difference between like the static to noise ratio or something. And it was like, all these things happen throughout the day. And I joke around. I'm like, I don't want to know what could get worse. I don't want to say it can't get worse because it can always get worse. What's going to happen? So I think I've realized why I've gotten cranky. And it's not because all this shit has happened. Because the stuff that happens day by day at this house is really no different than how my entire life has played out. And that's not like a sympathy thing or a poor me thing. That's just the way it's always been. Crazy shit has always happened to me. If it wasn't at this house, it would be somewhere else. I mean, someday I'll tell you the story that I shared with Itchy, about getting chased by horseflies naked with my little titties flopping through the front. I mean, just my life it's always been that way. So I'm used to it. Sometimes it takes its toll. I think the reason I've been cranky is because of the overwhelming change with the house. Now, I'll give you, this is where the background comes in. I'm not going to go all the way back. I'm just going to go back to when my children were young and I started out in insurance. I filled out I put a resume online. I think it was monster.com. And I got picked up by this guy who was opening up a State Farm agent. And he was looking for insurance agents, and I had some sales experience. And I spoke to him on the phone, and, State Farm paid for me to go for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to Albany and sit in a classroom, and they paid for my hotel, all my expenses and everything to get me licensed. And that's how I started in insurance. And I helped him open his office. That was in 2007. And we quickly made that office the number one office. He qualified for travel. It was fantastic. And he did something douchey to another agent. And so the other agent wanted to get him back. So he poached another agent's team member because he was dating her. And the other agent poached me. And I got a sign-on bonus. And it was nasty because 25% of his book wanted to go with me. And you don't do that at State Farm because State Farm owns the policies. It's not, you're not an independent contractor. You're paid that way, but State Farm owns the book, where Allstate and those other companies, the agent owns the book. They can sell it. They can do what they want, which is, you don't transfer agents. But they were in such an uproar that I had to make a list of all the people that I wrote. And the guy had to give up his policies. So it was, anyway, that is not even part of the story. But so I started working at a different State Farm office for a few years. The point was, I wanted to go out on my own. Everyone kept saying, how come you don't have your own agency? How come you don't have your own agency? My children were young. They were very young. I was still married when I got licensed. It was July of 07. And I got separated in like September of 09. So my children must have been like 6 and 8. I wasn't in a position where I could put the time and energy and effort and focus into opening an insurance office as an agent by myself when my children were that young. I had to too many responsibilities. Wait, I gotta flip the corn. So you fast forward a couple of years, the agent that I moved to, he wound up becoming the #1 agent. I was like I was an insurance agent, but I wasn't a State Farm agent, so they called us team members. I was the #1 sales team member on the entire from I think North Carolina up to Buffalo, like the northeast region they call it. I was one of the top 3, and I go, you could sell ice to the Eskimos, you can sell screen doors to a submarine, condoms to the Pope, whatever. But I was getting the itch to do my own thing. In fact, that's when I wrote my book. I wrote a book. And so I didn't choose my fate, my destiny. I didn't grow up as a little girl saying, when I grow up, I want to be an insurance agent. But I did love what I did because I loved the protective product. I loved when somebody, I didn't want anyone to experience a loss, but when somebody had a loss, they called me, I could fix it. And dysfunctional me wants to fix everybody. Broken bird, I'll fix it. So that was it felt like my purpose. You had an accident. I mean, I would do anything for them. So I was going to go out on my own, and I had to do investments to do that because MetLife wanted to take me on and give me an agency, and I got one. And actually, I was the #1 new advisor in the country when I opened my MetLife office. I wrote 550 contracts in the first year, and took everybody from State Farm. So I was my daughter's Girl Scout leader when I still worked at State Farm. I had to go to work early, half an hour every day, work through my lunch, and stay half an hour late every day, Monday through Thursday, so I could leave at 2 o'clock on Fridays, drive to the school, and be Girl Scout leader. Take them on trips, sell cookies, teach them how to use power tools, build birdhouses, and earn merit badges and shit. So yada, yada, yada. When I got divorced, I walked away from the house. I didn't get a buyout. I did not ask for alimony. I left his retirement intact, and I did not ask for child support. And he was also allowed to claim the children on the taxes every other year. Well, my attorney and the judge had a fit. They thought I was being, threatened. They said, you're giving away the farm. And to me, that was the difference between somebody who really wanted to get divorced and just be done with it, and someone who fights tooth and nail and spends $50 grand each and making the attorneys rich by dragging your divorce out because you're still fighting over something. I just wanted out. I was willing to start over. I took what was mine. I left what was his. I split the debt with him. So the New York State will not let you forego child support. And so I knew I wasn't going to get it. It was going to be sporadic, and I didn't want to get used to money that was going to show up or not, whatever. So I made an agreement that he would just have to put 50. It was supposed to be $880 a month. And instead, I said he can put $50 a week into each of their college education funds, which was $400 a month. I can afford to raise them on my own, and he can pay for college. And we had joint custody. It was like 60-40. It was almost, I had an easier time as a single parent than I did when I was married, because when he had them for those 2 days, 3 days a week, he's the only time I ever got a break. I didn't get a break when I was married. I'm like, I don't advocate divorce, but for me, I'm not going to complain about being a single mother. I'm like, I'm free. So I did open my own agency. And it was grueling. But because I was raising children and I had responsibilities, I've always done okay. I've always been right on the threshold of making it pretty decent, pretty big. And my own fear of success would stop me. Just good enough. I'll just stick my toes in the water. Because I didn't want my kids to go without. And they didn't. We weren't wealthy by any means. I did okay, but I spent a lot of money. I bought a house, and I bought a house for $99,000. I followed the guidelines that if you're going to buy a car, it shouldn't be more than 20% of your annual salary. I think I bought a car for like 10% of my annual salary, and it was a Buick. It was nice, used. But I was smart about the house I bought, and I made some decent money on it when I sold it. But I never chose. My point is, I didn't choose what I wanted to do. I did what needed to be done because I had children to raise. I had responsibilities. And I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to enjoy, for the most part, what I did. It was exhausting, constantly having to sell and earn commission. There was no salary. Scary to buy a house with no income. You got commission, but there was no base. When I was at State Farm, I was going to leave, and he didn't want me to. I made him give me a piece of his annual bonus in order to keep me. And I was making like 90 grand in 2014. And I had to give that up to open a storefront office, hire staff, get furniture. I had billboards all over the place. I put billboards where my old State Farm agent had to drive to work because he was a dick when I left. He was so mad that I was leaving that he tried to badmouth me to people. So I put all the billboards in areas up on the highway where he had to see them driving to work. And one of the girls in the office called me and told me he changed the direction he goes to work in the morning. He came in screaming when he saw your big mug up on the highway. Hold on a second. I got to get my salmon on. Time to put the fish on. And one of the reasons I tell you this is because I've always been a really hard worker. I've always been go, go, go. And I'm going to backtrack a little further. I've not been unemployed from the time I was 10. I've not once ever been unemployed since the age of 10. And when I was 10, I was responsible enough that I was allowed to babysit for people. And I had illegal paper routes. You had to be 11 years old to get working papers to do paper routes. So my brothers used to take on paper routes, and then they didn't want to do it. So I would, and I would collect all the money. I opened as an entrepreneur at 11 or 12 years old. I opened up the Heather loan company. I discovered a typewriter in the house, old Blue Brother typewriter with carbon paper. And so I used to collect, it was $3 a week for the newspaper. And it went up to like $3.25 and $3.50. That's how long ago this was. And they knew I wasn't old enough, but they didn't have any complaints and I was responsible, so they let it go. I used to wash my money. I'd soak it in the sink, get all the dirt off, and then I would go down to the basement for hours and iron it. Take all the corners out, press it, and then once it was all straight, I would fold it in half, crease it, and press it with a crease. And then I put it in serial number order. And my mother used to walk past the basement and turn the light out, and I'd yell, "I'm down here!" And she didn't know it because I was down there for so long ironing my money. So I opened up the Heather, loan company, and I would loan sharks, and so I'd write up contracts. And my brother would want $5 to go buy bubble gum, and he'd pay interest. And I got shut down when my mother came to borrow money from me. I think I was 11 or 12. And when she came to borrow money, I'm like, "Sure, hang on a second." And I got my money out, and I pulled up a contract. I started typing up contract, and she's like, "Carbon copy." And I'm like, "Can you sign here?" And she's like, "What is this?" I said, "It's a contract." She said, "For what?" I said, "Well, this much interest. You have 2 weeks to pay it back, and at 10% interest. If you don't pay it by that, then there's a penalty, and it goes up each day." She's like, she lost her shit. Meanwhile, she made my brother pay me the interest. She shut down my loan company. One of my friends in high school's parents called me a Rasta. The Rasta! Because I had like 2 and 3 jobs. I always had 2 and 3 jobs. I was always working. I was always go, go, go. I'm going to get to a point too. So you get a little background on what I've always been like. But I never chose. I didn't choose. What I did was whatever opportunity I was given, I made the most of it. I was a receptionist at a flavor and fragrance company when I was 17, right out of high school, because I already moved out of my house. I had an apartment. And they said, "You can work here as long as you know there's no room for advancement. You're the receptionist. You'll always be the receptionist." I'm like, the receptionist is the face of the company. Like, I'm going to be the best receptionist. And I was. And I say that with such gusto. Because for a place that had no room for advancement, I went from being the receptionist to being formulation control, inventory control, and then on my lunch breaks, I would go into the flavor lab and the fragrance lab and have them teach me how to compound the chemicals. I worked in the QC lab, and then all of a sudden, I was a chemical compounder. There was no room for advancement, and 4 promotions later, at the age of 17, I was at that company for 5 or 6 years. I think I left when I was 22 or 23 for the brilliant career as a bartender. I had a 401k. I made more money when I was 19 than my mother was making. So when you fast forward to the insurance and investment aspect of it, and I wound up leaving MetLife because of the Dodd-Frank, Bernie Sanders wanted to break up all the big banks, and they broke up MetLife. And so the auto and home division went in one place, and all their annuities and life insurance and the investments went to Bright House. And I wasn't hired by the auto and home division. I was hired by the annuities division. And so I didn't want to be an independent contractor. And Prudential had been chomping at the bit for a long time to get me, because a lot of my advisors that I worked with at Met had already left and gone to Pru. And so they recruited me to go there. I didn't like investments. I wanted to do the protective products, the life insurance, the disability, or home and auto. I didn't like investments. I don't gamble. And I was up at night worrying about whether your money was going to be enough for the rest of your life. I qualified for travel. I mean, they took us to Banff Castle, and I did well, but I lived to work. All I ever did my whole life was live to work. The difference between working to live and living to work is the balance. When you live to work, it's just like it's done. You don't do anything but work. Everything is about the next paycheck. The only reason I had ever been in any of those jobs or careers was because I had responsibilities. I wanted the paycheck. And granted, I loved a lot of the jobs I did. I loved the people I worked with. I did very well. I wasn't like I was unsuccessful at it, but I wasn't fulfilled. I hadn't ever even thought, well, what would I want to do? In all honesty, when I was a little girl, all I ever wanted to be was a model, which I did for a couple of years. I did some runway modeling in my early 20s. And I'm actually in a few books. So I didn't have the support that I needed to go anywhere with that. Let's an 18-year-old walk around New York City by herself, lost, and not knowing she's not known for go-sees. You got to go to the go-sees, all the open calls, by myself on the fucking train for like 9 hours. And I was on the east side of New York, and I need to be on the west side. And I walked the 86 blocks. Forget it. Yeah. But anyway, I had never chosen what I wanted to do. If an opportunity presented itself, I'm like, I can do that. I can do that. I can make that work. And I always did. And I always made the most of it. And I made the best of it. I had children to provide for. It wasn't until COVID came, when the shutdown came, I was constantly go, go, go. I traveled I did 40,000 miles a year driving. I mean, I would drive 3 hours to someone's house just to get a beneficiary change. I was doing paperwork in my home office at 3 o'clock in the morning. And the stress was unbearable. And my kids weren't satisfied. We went on vacations. We went out to eat. I mean, when I was a child, I didn't eat in a restaurant until I was 16 or 17, when my uncle took all of us out for my grandmother's 60th or 70th birthday. It was like, this is how and it was brunch. This is how the other half lives. I didn't want my kids to grow up that way. And I would do whatever I had to give that to them. And they didn't appreciate it because I wasn't present. That's not what we wanted. We just wanted you. I'm like, well, fuck me. I still can't fucking get it right. Anyway, when the shutdown came, I had 3 years off from work. I wasn't unemployed, but there was a moratorium in place. You couldn't solicit new business. And I sat home. Was dating TJ, moved in with him, sold my house, and collected a paycheck. My paycheck was $20 more per month than what TJ made working full-time from Pru. When the money was starting to run out, I had to go back, and I didn't want to. Suddenly, I hated what I did, and the dread of going back was so overwhelming that it suffocated me. I didn't know what I was going to do. My children were grown by this point. One was off at college in a dorm. The other one was primarily with her father, because when I moved in with TJ, she wanted to stay in Syracuse. And she was in high school at that point anyway. I gotta get my food. I'm gonna go get my food. And I did not do a very good job of plating this. One of the reasons I learned, I was always decent in the kitchen. But at one point, I actually worked for a up-and-coming, almost famous chef from Long Island. He owned the number 4 Zagat rated restaurant. He was on Chopped. He was on Throwdown with Bobby Flay. He beat Bobby Flay in Throwdown. He was always on Elvis Duran. I worked at 2 of his restaurants. And here's my salmon with lemon. There's my corn and my rainbow carrots. The rainbow carrots smell amazing. I think I was talking about the shutdown. When the shutdown came, I was dreading going back to work. And I just didn't want to. And so TJ had said, what do you think you want to do? And I was like, I want to be a handyman. And I don't even know where it came from. I wanted to have an Etsy page. I wanted to do crafty, creative things. And I wanted to make a business out of it. So I started an Etsy page. And it did okay, but I couldn't keep up with it. Because I did too many detailed things. It took too long to get them ready, and I didn't charge enough. So, that doesn't suck. The handyman thing took off like a rocket. It took off so fast that I was unable to even keep up. And it's been 3.5 years, and it's every year is just as busy as the year before, and I'm not complaining. I am not complaining. I didn't care how busy it was. My kids were grown. I didn't have a mortgage. And I didn't do it for the money. I did it because I enjoyed it. Grueling physical labor. Loved it. Because now I don't have to go to the fucking gym. And I can eat McDonald's. So, I got to choose what I was doing for the first time ever. And I don't know if I was a little guy. I want to be a handyman. I always wanted to build stuff. I was always building stuff. They call me MacGyver. So, I built a pool house in my last house. In my first house with my ex-husband, I took the enclosed porch and I converted it into a playroom with carpet, electric, leveled it, sheetrocked it, built a built-in toy chest, window seat bench, carpeted. So, and no, I didn't go to trade school for it. But no matter how busy I got, I enjoyed it. I didn't care. I get stressed and overwhelmed only because I didn't want to let people down. I was getting great recommendations. I didn't want to lose that because your reputation's all you have. But I wasn't doing it for the money, so to speak. Of course, I needed the money. I had bills to pay, but I enjoyed what I did. I was no longer living to work. I was working to live. I got to go to work so I could live. And there are so many famous rich people that say, if you love what you do, you don't have to work a day in your life. And that's true to a degree. I love what I do. It's still work. But I chose that. I got to choose what I wanted to do. I didn't have enough balance. But when TJ and I split up, now, the crazy shit that goes on here, that continued all through the years. When I first met TJ and I moved in with him, I'm like, nobody can believe the stuff that happens to me unless you spend enough time with me to see it on a regular basis. What the fuck? You can't make it up. But I got through it. I always had income. There were times I struggled. I always worried. I'm always worrying. I'd rather worry for nothing than not worry about something and get blindsided. I realize it's not worth it. I still do it. But when I bought this house, when TJ and I split up, one of the things I thought was, I was able to start this business because I lived with him. I paid a portion of the expenses at the house, but I wouldn't have been able to do this if I was still in my old house. And when we decided that we weren't getting married and that I was moving out, I had invested everything that I got from my last house and everything I had earned from then until I moved out into his house. And the deal was he'd put my name on it. And for a couple of years, he didn't. And it became a bone of contention where I finally said to him, I don't want to resent you, but I'm going to at some point. That was my security blanket. That was my nest egg. And the agreement was if I was going to sell it and move in, my name was going to go in the house. So he did it. Thank goodness. Because the following year, he told me he didn't want to get married. And that's the only reason I got a buyout. He had no choice. I was at work today. And If I tell you what I make, sometimes it's obscene. It is just obscene. I earn it. I earn it. And my work is worth it. And it's not because I charge so much. I just have so many jobs. I mean, it's nothing in the summertime to have a $12,000 to $13,000 month. That is not. And that's not me bragging. And I don't really like talking about money. It's disgusting to talk about money. Unless you're talking about how cheap you got something. I got it on sale. It's tacky and tasteless to talk about how much money you have. Because I have none. I don't make that every month. I don't even make that every month of the summer. But from May through like September, is it June, July, August? So 4 or 5 months out of the year, probably 2 or 3 of them. 2 or 3, maybe 3. 2, I'll make 10 to 12, 13,000 a month. But there are months in the winter where, or the fall, it's 4, it's 5. And that's still decent. But my bills are $5,000 every month without extra expenses. I mean, there's business insurance, there's truck insurance, tools, repairs. There's so much that goes into the business that my bills are that much every month anyway. So it's not like I'm not rolling it. My point is, I bought Christine a donor sibling. I got an 88 GMC Sierra 2500 heavy duty dually dump truck like 3 days ago. And I saw it on Marketplace. Runs great. Dump bed works great. But the frame is broken. And my mechanic is like, you can fix that. I don't want to fix it. I want her for parts. Where am I going to find one? And most of the parts are compatible. She's got better tires, better seat. Dashboard works. They've owned it since 1990. It has 77,000 original miles. And not because that's when the odometer broke. It still works. So I bought it for $1,000. The tires alone were worth $500. So here's my point. You guys know, so much shit with this house happened. It's going to be $1,100 in 2 weeks to put the bladder tank in. It was $1,700 when the plumber came the first time to pump the septic and jet the garage line. So it was $1,330 for repairs for Christine 2 weeks ago. And then $300 last week. The Jeep was $750. It was $830 to rent the truck for the week that I had the truck when the Jeep wasn't running and Christine was in for a week. When I paid for one of the repairs, it was the rear axle seal. I said, didn't I pay for that already? Like last November with my last mechanic, I gave you all the invoices. Isn't that on there? And he looks, he's like, yeah, you did. I was going to go back and make that guy fix it. And I'm like, you know what? He fixed it wrong the first time anyway. I said, just fucking fix it. So that was part of the $1,300. So then I found a new mechanic for the truck. Because he said, I don't really work on old trucks and I know my limitations. And I appreciated his honesty. I said, don't worry about it. You won't lose my business because the Jeep cost me more money. You'll make more money in the Jeep. So I found a truck repair guy for Christine. And he's going to fix her oil leaks that I paid the other mechanic previously $2,200 to fix. And they're leaking all over. He looks at it and says, oh, it's your rear axle seal. I said, don't fucking tell me that. I said, not only did I pay my first mechanic, I just paid for that a week ago. He looks, he's like, yeah. So he's like, maybe they just didn't clean them off. Let me clean them, drive it for the weekend, bring it back, and I'll look. I said, no, it's leaking. So it needs a sleeve or a collar or something. When it's old and they're not perfect, you have to put some kind of collar or sleeve on it. And if you don't work on those trucks, you won't know it. So I have to have the rear axle seal fixed a third time. Luckily, the second mechanic told me he's going to make it right. The point is, it doesn't end. Now I have a mortgage. I have a mortgage that's bigger than I wanted it to be. And I made a down payment that was bigger than I wanted it to be. And the house cost more than I wanted it to cost. And I spent all this money before I got here, thinking the house was in such great shape that I can buy a dishwasher and a sink and all this fun decorative stuff and all this paint and the ceiling fixtures and all this copper and do all this fun stuff. And now I'm in the middle of all this fun stuff and the house is falling apart. The spring well dried up. I can't drink my water. All the shit that's going on. My dog is dying. And My dog might die tomorrow. And I was so stressed today. He was in the hospital last week. My little Juan Pablo. My little pain in the ass. And I know I mentioned, I gave the dogs to TJ like a month ago because I'm not home enough. And it wasn't fair to them to wait for me to get home at 10 or 11 o'clock at night to eat or be let out. It's torture. It's abuse. And if I kept him, it would have been selfish. And I've had him since 2013. And then it occurred to me that I was with TJ for 7 years. 7 out of 13 years. I mean, it's not like these dogs don't know him. He was around for more than half of the whole time. And so they've been, and I still see them because he and I see each other. And Juan Pablo had to keep, I said, TJ, he doesn't look good. So TJ called the vet. And they had to keep him overnight. It's $1,350 for one overnight visit for IV fluids, antibiotic, and x-rays. And TJ's like, I'm just going to pay it. I said, no, I'll split it with you. I get the dog back. Well, he tells me not to split it with him. Because with that, I got hit with a barrage of some big surprises. And I don't even remember what they all are at this point. And so he got the dog back the next day, and he had shown signs of improvement. And now it's like a week later, and he went downhill again. And he went downhill quickly. And he's never been sick. He's always had messed up teeth. His breath was awful. Every 2 years, he'd have to get his teeth cleaned, and they would pull teeth. I have his teeth in a jar. And so that was his only issue, was that he always had gum. He's a Chihuahua. They have teeth and gum issues. He's got like 4 teeth left. His little tongue hangs out of his mouth. So he took him back to the vet today, and the blood work was done again. And from last week, his numbers were elevated, but just slightly. Wasn't anything that was off the charts or pointed anything out to them. And today his numbers went fucking nuts. And so his glucose has plummeted. He dropped a pound. He weighed 8 pounds now. He's 7. It doesn't sound like a lot. It's 15% of his body weight. His liver enzymes shot through the roof. His white cell count went through the roof. He has jaundice, fever. And so they wanted to do an ultrasound because they wanted to see what was up with his liver, if it was liver disease or tumors. And I said, teacher, can you just let me be part of the phone call? I mean, it's my vet. I've been going there for 20 years, but they don't question it because we didn't tell them that we're not together anymore. So I called in while he was in the vet's office. I said, I'm not going to talk. I just want to listen. Please just tell me what's going on. Because he was on Rimadyl. You know, his hind legs were starting to go a little bit. He had trouble jumping in the bed. So he was on Rimadyl for like a year and a half. And every 3 months, he had to have his blood work done to make sure his liver was okay. Nobody ever said his results were off. Teacher's like, they want to do an MRI. It's $500. I said, listen, he just paid $1,350 last week. I said, I got it. I got it. Just if you need the MRI, don't question it. Because I was on speaker. I told the vet, if you need the MRI, just do it. And so they did. They didn't find anything other than some nodes. But his liver's enlarged and it has fluid around it. Now they're talking about a fucking biopsy. Do you know how hard it is to biopsy a dog's liver? If they nick it in the wrong spot, and it's tiny, he's so small. What are you doing this to a 14-year-old dog for? They said that they want to keep him for 3 to 4 days because he has to be on the IV fluids and potent antibiotics intravenously. And they're not comfortable leaving him at their hospital because people go home at 7 and there's no one there overnight. And they don't want him there by himself overnight with an IV in. They want to send him to Cornell, which is who I work with for the chickens. Cornell is top-notch hospital. They didn't have room for. I said, I don't care if they did. I don't want to put a price on my dog's life. But if you can't afford something, you have to look at the scope. Okay, the dog is 14. He has almost no teeth. He's been healthy his entire life. He's suddenly not healthy and severely not healthy. And whatever he's got hit him hard and fast. I don't want him at Cornell. I want him home. Because if something happens to him, I don't want him at Cornell overnight. I want him home. The whole point was I got up this morning and I started trying to get to work. And I didn't get there till like 1 o'clock. Because and it wasn't that I wasn't working. I was doing crazy shit, tugged in all these different directions. And TJ's calling me, telling me he's got to go back to the hospital. And meanwhile, he got 4 chickens. He picked out these special chickens. One is a naked neck. He got all the chickens he wants. He got 4. The roosters over there. A fox came and took one of his chickens like 2 days ago. He was heartbroken. The rooster got his ass kicked. The rooster was trying to defend the hen. The rooster's all caught up. I mean, he's healing, but he tried to defend the hen. Fucking fox came back yesterday and took another one. There were feathers all over the yard. He came home. He's devastated. I had to drive an hour this morning for an appointment, an hour back, and the appointment was for nothing. And then on my way to work, I'm finally getting to work. This is the client, and this is what gets me to work to live to work. This is the client who hired me last year to be here 2 days a month to maintain her gardens. And I don't want to do it. It's weeding. I don't want to do it. And I left 2 weeks ago. My arm hurt. I told her I couldn't do it. She gave me a tool. This will make it easier. I'm like, you're not hearing me. And I fucking left. And she was cool with it. I didn't even wait for I haven't ever done that. I'm hitting a breaking point. What I do is grueling. If I don't take a break, I can't do it anymore. And now I have a mortgage. And the bills keep mounting. And I'm not going to get into debt. I'm not using credit cards for this shit. I'm not going to. And if I do use a credit card, it's getting fucking paid in 1 to 2 months max. That's it. If it takes longer than that, then I'm not fucking buying it or paying for it. Or it has to wait. I'm halfway to her house. And TJ's at the vet's office and texts me to tell me that his neighbor just called him and said his wife just chased a fisher out of the front yard. Fishers are the most deadly animal against a chicken, and they don't even eat the chicken, they just kill it for sport. He left the garage door open with the chicks and that rooster, and he's afraid that he's going to come home and they're all going to be dead. And because he let me use his truck for a week when I had no cars, I said, I'm on my way. It's just going to take me a half an hour to get there. I didn't even tell the client. I said, I'm just going to fucking be late again. I didn't get there till 1:30 in the afternoon. Thank goodness everyone in his house was okay. I closed the garage doors and I went to work. As I get to work, he calls me. He can't even talk. He can't breathe. He's like, Heather, I'm like, what's wrong? They're doing the MRI. They want to take him to Cornell. He can't even talk to tell him, like, what's wrong with the fucking dog? I just show up to this woman's house and I'm bawling in her backyard. So we have to figure out what we're doing with the dog. We got a quote of $6,000 to $8,000 to put him in a different facility for 3 to 4 days. I said, well, that's a fuck you quote if I've ever gotten one. So take him home. He can't go home. He's still in the hospital. This poor woman, I have left her house. I'm supposed to be there all day. Twice a month, all day. I don't think I've been there for a full day yet, which means I'm billing her next to nothing because I feel guilty. I mean, I don't even know if I'm making gas money to go there. And I don't. The work is grueling. But I had a moment with her today when she said she has clients coming to her house, 10 clients that she works with. And they're coming specifically to see her gardens. And that changed everything for me. I'm like, you know what? I have 60 to 70 clients coming to my house next month for my 3rd annual client appreciation barbecue. I hired a band. Got to pay for that. It's going to be a pig roast. Got to pay for that. And my gardens aren't going to be done. And this is what I do for a living. And this will be the 3rd year my gardens aren't done. And I'll stress out. And you know what? My gardens haven't been done yet. If hers can be, and I can do that for her, then at least one of us is prepared when our clients come to see our gardens. And I didn't have such a negative attitude anymore. Now I wanted to be there and I wanted to do the work. I was there for 2.5 hours. Oh, ding, ding, ding. Chiropractor appointment. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, yeah, I can meet you at 5. I'm like, fuck, I asked you that days ago. I was torn in so many fucking directions that I told TJ tonight, I stopped by his house when I got out of work. I had no choice. I had to. He's blubbering. And I am too. And I said to him, TJ, all my life, I lived to work. I never got to choose what I wanted to do. I did it to provide for everybody else. And that was fine. I enjoyed it. It was not all bad. It was great. I finally, for these last 4 years, got to choose what I'm doing for a living. And now I work to live. That's why I go to Nashville. That's why I was like, fuck it, I'm going to London. Because I can't take it with me. I'm going to a concert. I'm going to do that. Because my kids are grown, I'm by myself. Why wouldn't I? I worked all those fucking years. I'm taking horseback riding lessons. 5 of them. The point is, why can't I enjoy it? I work my ass off. And now I'm cranky. And I thought to myself, what am I doing? I'm running around to all these jobs just to get them finished, Why do you got to get them finished? Because I got to get paid. Of course I have to get paid. But I'm finding that I'm getting annoyed. I'm getting annoyed at the job. I'm getting annoyed at the client. I'm getting annoyed in general. And it's like, I'm not doing it with the passion and the love. It's still meticulous, but the passion is not there. The desire and the drive is not there. I am driven by finance. I never did it for the money before. And now I'm doing it for the money. Because I have all these fucking bills. So it doesn't make a difference. You can make $12,000 in a month. If you have $15,000 in bills, you're still $3,000 in the hole. You could make $1,000 a month and have $300 in bills, and you're still $700 to the good. You have more money than me. So it's all relative. The girl that worked for me has not come back. This is the 3rd week, 2 to 3 weeks. Haven't heard from her once. I heard from her one time. She sent me a picture of Weed Block. I'm like, what's that? She's like, Weed Block. I'm like, oh, okay. You haven't reached out to me or shown up or done anything in 2 weeks, and you send me a random picture of you putting in Weed Block because I taught you at that woman's house? Great. So I waited a few days, and I said, can I at least ask why you decided not to come back? I've just been wondering. Did you not I'm thinking to myself, did you not think it was a real job? Because the office was in my house. Like, you abandon your position. Forget 3 days. It's been 3 weeks. And I haven't read her response yet. I saw the beginning of it. I've been really depressed. I'm like, God, can't do it right now. You want to talk about depressed? The fire department had to come and pump 1,500 gallons of water out of my basement. I need a new furnace. Next week is 1,100 to replace the bladder tank. When it rained the other night, the tuna fish video, when I said it was raining in the barn, whoever didn't pick up on that, it's because the fucking roof is leaking. It was pouring rain in the barn on my tools. I now need to put a new roof on the barn. It doesn't stop. And I told TJ tonight, there's a switch, the paradigm shifting. I'm losing my passion, and I'm not working to live. I'm living to work. And I'm doing it for the money. And I don't want that. And I think that there are probably a lot of people out there. I mean, this whole video is the backstory to come up with one sentence that this is what it means. This is the definition of working to live and living to work, and we have to stop doing it. I had a client text me at 2:30 or 3:30 in the morning the other night. I mean, I was up. I was talking to Itchy. Remember Itchy? I'm like, a fucking client just texted me. She did it again tonight at 11 o'clock. Oh, quick side note. Remember the nutcase that I didn't want to take the job, and I shouldn't have taken the job, and my gut told me not to take the job, so I recorded shit, and I didn't trust her. And I'm like, oh, she's going to sue me. She'll sue me. I haven't gotten the paperwork yet. She paid me with a notation on her automatic payment that said outstanding and exceptional. She was thrilled. 2 days later, we had 2 confirmed tornadoes touch down. That's when the 1,500 gallons of water was in my basement. No one had power TJ had no power for 3 days. People died. Her mulch got washed away, like a strip of it. Not all of it, just a strip of it. Because her roof over the deck doesn't have a gutter on it. So when it ran off, it made a line, and the stuff under the line washed down. So you just had to put it back. And she started blowing up my phone. You didn't give me enough mulch. When can you come back with more? where'd it go? Because there was plenty of mulch. In fact, there was enough that you were only going to have to scratch the surface and fluff it next season. I did the same 2 or 3 inches I do for everybody. Now, even my neighbor said there should be more. Well, then call your fucking neighbor to come over and put the mulch in for you. And when you're at it, tell her that you were watering her fucking roses. She started accusing me of all this shit. Unsatisfactory completion. I said, well, what would you like me to do? I can bring you the mulch. I'll bring you half a yard. I can deliver it for $60. And then I have to figure out when I can get it and bring it and put it in. Or you can have the nursery deliver it, which is about $80 for half a yard. But if they drop it off, this is killing me. If they drop it off, then all I have to do is stop by quickly and put it in. Which would you prefer? Do you want me to bring it for $60 or do you want the nursery to bring it for $80? I already paid in full for everything. I'm not paying for anything else. I said, yeah, you did. You paid in full. You paid for everything you got. And you got everything you paid for. So I made sure I sent her an email. She was using emoticons for exclamation points at 9:48 at night, 5:48 in the morning. So I sent her this obnoxious, very professional, very polished, slightly snide, backhanded, if you're smart enough to read between the lines, email that told her she was very important as a client, that I wanted to address each and every one of her concerns listed in the text message, so that her comment has a bullet point with my response below. And then I said, now that I've addressed all of your concerns, allow me to clarify a few things to clear up the discrepancies so you understand. I did not shortchange you on mulch. You know, there's plenty. This is a roof line. I'm attaching photos with diagrams and pictures. And I went, you know, whatever. I said, and had you just asked me what happened or asked me to help you fix it, there's a good chance I would have just choked it up and brought you some mulch. I said, but because you had to come out swinging and accuse me of shortchanging your materials and telling me that I have done an inadequate completion, I said, you were there for every single aspect of that job. Because she's the one that moved her chair around with me. I said, and you took many opportunities to ask questions and make comments, none of which pertain to mulch. And you were more than satisfied and elated at the end of the job. So for you to say I've shortchanged you and did it unsatisfactory completion, and then to spin it into you're unhappy, I said, you pay for materials. I did. The $60 is absent of any additional labor, but there's no reason for you to believe I would pay for your materials. If I needed more mulch when I was at your house, I would have billed you for it then. What's next? You don't have enough plants? You don't want me to pay for those too? I said, I went one step further with this bitch. I didn't tell her that I have recordings. I just said, my gut told me that you were going to have an issue. And I struggled with whether or not to accept this job from the time that I met you up to and including doing the work. I knew you'd have a problem. I said, my gut told me. So I made sure that I did absolutely meticulous work the way I always do. I said, but I cautioned myself and I documented and detailed thoroughly everything. So I caution you to think about that before you start saying things that aren't true. And now I haven't heard from her. So I'm sure I'm going to get court papers soon. I bought the truck. I was going to have AAA tow it. They don't tow like non-roadworthy cars. The truck runs, but it didn't have plates on it. So I ordered the tow truck. And I told them it's insured. I tried to drive it home. It wouldn't stay started. I need you to take it to my house. It would have been fine. But the tow truck driver wanted to be a dick. And he called me and he's like, this truck it's not road ready. I said, come on, man. I said, I couldn't get to the DMV with my temporary insurance card. It's insured. I was a fucking insurance agent. I said, I was going to take the plate off my old truck and put it on for the 20-minute ride home. No, it wouldn't have been registered, but it's insured. I said, I can't take it. This woman wants me to get the fucking truck out of her house. I paid for it like 5 days ago. I said, well, how much would it cost if I paid for it? Well, that depends. Is it cash or credit card? I'm like, oh, this one was a fuck. And I'm crying on the phone. I got the computer guy here fixing the computer because Windows 11 isn't going to be supported. I have Windows 10, and no matter, you all know about Windows 11. The plumber's in the fucking basement telling me it's $1,100 for the bladder. And this guy's like, cash or credit? I said, cash, $378, 15 miles. I said, I'm like, I guess I have to do it. So, you have the money on you? I'm like, yes, I do. Half an hour later, the truck shows up. And he was a dick. I don't think he was expecting me when he got here because he got out of the truck. And I was like, what's up? He was like, yeah, put it in the driveway. Get the fuck out of here. I only had hundreds because I had just gotten paid. Every time I get paid, I give it to someone else. That's what's killing me. I get all this money, and as soon as I get it, I just turn around. So I'm just working to tow cars, repair cars, and rent cars, and vet bills. I give him the $400. I said $378. He's like, do you need change? Do I need change? Yes, I do. In fact, when the guy came from AAA to pick up my Jeep, he was so fantastic. I gave him a $25 tip because I'm not paying for the fucking tow. When AAA came and dragged that fucking rental truck off my lawn from the mud, he got a $50 tip. He was here for an hour. This guy would have had a tip. I said, yeah, I need you. I don't know what I have on me. Oh, I have a 2.5. I said, okay. And when I said, okay, he thought I might keep it. He goes to put it away. I said, I'll take the 2.5s. You can keep the rest. I wouldn't have ever done that before. He was not getting it. It was a forced tip. He got a $12 tip. You drove a half an hour and you wouldn't even fucking let AAA could have paid him. Before he even left, I said, oh, by the way, you're right. I should have my insurance company reimburse this. Can I get a receipt? Because he wasn't going to report it. He's like, you can just put it in your insurance company. I said, just fucking bring me the truck. I said, yeah, you're right. I am going to reimburse myself through the insurance company. Can I get a receipt? So he gives my email. And before he leaves, I get a text message from AAA. Thank you for letting us assist you today. Your service request has successfully been completed. I said, has it now? So I called AAA. I said, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I didn't start jumping and accusing. I said, it was marked successfully complete. What does that mean? Does that mean that he brought me the truck, he towed it? And she's like, well, isn't that what I said? Yeah. I said, I have the truck here. Yeah, I got it. He just brought it. I'm just wondering if it's completed through AAA. And she's like, well, yeah. I said, okay. I just paid him $400. He double dipped. He billed AAA and didn't tell them that he was making me pay him cash to bring the truck. Dun, dun, dun. Guess who's in trouble now? She documented the whole thing. I told her verbatim when he made me what he said, and she put it in there as driver from, I'm not going to say which company, bribed the AAA client into paying cash as a private tow and then billed us and her. Fuck you. Force a tip? That's the shit I've been going through. So I have all this money, and then I have none. The ultrasound wasn't even $500, it was $585. Christine has to go back in for the rest of the work. And my bladder tank's getting done. And that's why I'm upset that I am now living to work. It's backwards again, and I have to flip it back. I have some really good jobs coming up with some really good clients, and I want to appreciate those jobs and those clients. And I want them to appreciate the work, and they always will. I'm not ever going to shortchange the work. But I don't want to be pussing around with a miserable look on my face, worried about shit, because nothing's going right. Nothing's ever gone right. That's okay. And the money's going to be there. God has never let me down. I might not be wealthy, but I haven't ever gone without. In the nick of time, something always comes in and works out. So I need to get back to working to live, because I was enjoying myself. I want to finish putting the stuff in that I bought, because it's still in boxes in the garage. I can't take it back if it doesn't work. I want to finish what I started. I haven't finished a single project that I started when I moved in. I was on a rampage, painting the bathroom cabinets, putting a sink in, putting faucets in, put a dishwasher in the kitchen. I mean, painted rooms. I mean, I was on fire. And then everything came to a screeching halt. And it's been nothing but me whining since. I don't want to whine. I want to work to live. I don't want to live to work. And so I don't think it's a matter of life changing. It's my attitude that needs to change. And it's like Kevin O'Leary said today, is it static or is it noise? Like, which is it? Is it something that needs to be addressed now? Or can I wait till tomorrow? It's not going anywhere. Because what needs to be addressed tomorrow is whether we have to make a decision to put the dog down. He's not gonna sit. They're not gonna poke and prod this fucking dog that is now 7 pounds and not eating. That's not how he didn't live with me for 14 years to go out like that. So he's either gonna get better or he's not. And if he's not gonna get better, then he's not gonna get better at home. And it's not gonna be. And I don't want to say that there's a price on my dog's life that $8,000 isn't worth it. I don't have it. TJ doesn't have it. And I wouldn't spend it. I'm not going to spend $8,000. For what? They already did x-rays, 2 sets of blood work, an ultrasound, IV fluids. There were no tumors, a couple of nodules. They don't know what's wrong. What is another hospital going to do? Except the same fucking tests. Charge a fortune for it, and they're going to be inconclusive. And then what did you do to this poor 7-pound dog on his last days of his life? You made a guinea pig out of him? Not on my fucking dime. Literally not on my dime. So it's going to be a mess in the next couple days. I have a feeling it's going to be a mess because I think my dog is going to go to... I'm more concerned about Ralphie. I mean, Ralphie can't stand Juan Pablo. Juan Pablo annoys the fuck out of him. But that's his buddy. That's his companion. Whether they get along all the time or not doesn't matter. Ralphie's going to be by himself. So to wrap this podcast up, I don't need to change my luck. I don't need to change my life. I need to change my focus, and I need to change my perspective. I'm not ever going to have a lot of money. I'm not ever going to have any money. And I'm fine with that. I don't give a shit. I don't want to be here long enough to need it. But I don't want to not enjoy what I do. Especially because I got to choose what I do. How can I not enjoy what I chose to do? And I can't allow anybody else to push me to the point where they want so much from me that I don't enjoy it. I can't allow someone to take that happiness away. So I'm gonna take a shower. I'm gonna get a good night's sleep. I'm gonna go to the vet in the morning. I'm gonna bring my boy home. TJ's gonna work from home so he can be with the dog all day. I just want to see him. I have two jobs tomorrow. I can't push them off. I've already pushed them off. As long as I can see the dog, he'll be fine with TJ. And when I get out of work, I will see him again and we will make our decision based on his progress. If you have questions or comments, feel free to leave them. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And if you leave a tip, I'm going to pay the vet bill with it. Have a great night, guys. Don't forget to put a note in community for when I'll try to make a compromise and a window for a live chat in like a week. If you guys put down some dates and times with your time zone, so I know what you're talking about, and we'll go get to chat together. Have a great night.